Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you a reading wrap-up on every book I read in the month of May. I read 12 books in the month of May, but most of that was audiobooks. The first book I read this month was Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and I listened to this as an audiobook. Not in Love is about a scientist who is working for her friend's company and the man who's coming in to buy out the company. Of course, our relationship sparks, there's a lot of drama. I feel like the plot of this just wasn't as well explained as I was hoping, and it is really spice heavy, which is fine, but I don't know, I like plot. I do love me some Ali Hazelwood. I love a silly little romance that is always about big man, small girl, STEM, all of that. I do enjoy it. This just didn't hit for me. Also, I feel like everyone talks about Deep End being crazy about like the spice content. Why does no one talk about this book? That's all they did in this book. It just wasn't my favorite. I don't think I would recommend this one. Maybe it's because I listened to it as an audiobook, or maybe it's because I have read quite a few Ali Hazelwood books recently, and I feel like I can't do that. I can't really stack her books like that. Anyways, again, yeah, not my favorite of her books. The next book I read was Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This is a kind of nothing book. I did this as an audiobook. It is less than 2 hours long. It is very, very short. It is about... Honestly, I forgot what this book is about. Hi, Future Shy is here to give you the description on the book that past me forgot to give you. So I'm reading it from Goodreads. So it is 1985 in a small Irish town. During the weeks leading up to Christmas, Bill Furlong, a coal merchant and family man, faces into his busiest season. Weird way to write that. Early one morning, while delivering an order to the local convent, Bill makes a discovery which forces him to confront both his past and the complicit silences of a town controlled by the church. So it's basically about how the young girls who live at the church are being abused by like the nuns and the people who work and live at the church. It was actually pretty good. I probably just forgot about it because it was such a quick read. Now that I've read the description, I was like, oh yeah, no, I enjoyed that. It was good. No, it was good. I definitely think I would recommend it for a quick little read. I think for an audiobook, it's like less than 2 hour audiobook, so definitely check that out if you're able to get it on like Libby like I did. I do like that it confronts the ideas of abuse within a church and how that can impact people of a town. Back to the video where past me is talking about the other books I read this month. Enjoy! The next book is God of the Woods by Liz Moore, and this is a thriller that I rated 5 stars. One of my highest rated reads of the month. I absolutely adored this book. I very rarely give thrillers 5 stars. I think that if I can predict the ending, it automatically drops to 4 stars. That might not be very fair, but God of the Woods is about a girl named Barbara who goes missing overnight while she is at summer camp. And it is about the interconnected lives of the camp counselors, the owners of the camp, people who live at the camp. It is constantly jumping between point of views and time periods. That might sound very daunting, but I promise it makes sense when you are reading the book. This book, I could not predict a single thing that was going to happen. I could not figure out what was a red herring, what was real. All the red herrings ended up being connected to one another. It was very interesting. I definitely recommend this book if you like thrillers. It's not that intense or heavy, so I think if you are new to a thriller genre, I think that this is a good book for you. The next book I read was Two Can Play by Ali Hazelwood, and again, I think I doomed myself by doing multiple Ali Hazelwood books quite close together. Two Can Play is about 2 game developers at 2 rival companies who are trying to work on a contract to make a game together. There is also some background of these 2 characters hating each other, kind of enemies to lovers, miscommunication, all of those kinds of tropes that you know and love from Miss Ali Hazelwood. I chose this one because I love video games, and in Check and Mate, Ali Hazelwood mentioned Dragon Age, which is my favorite game series of all time. And so when she mentioned it multiple times in that book, I was hoping I would get some cameos of that game series in this because she seems to be a fan of it. Unfortunately, this was 0% about games. Very disappointing because that's kind of the main reason why I listened to it. Again, I don't like to do all of my Ali Hazelwood books at the same time, so I was really hoping this would be a little bit different and give me a little bit more about the games, kind of like Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow did. Unfortunately, it didn't do that. It was just romance, and I didn't really like the romance in this book. I thought it was kind of boring, and her books are very predictable in a way that I usually enjoy because sometimes that's kind of all you want. That's all you need. But having read 3 or 4 of her books within the same 2-month period, That was definitely a bad choice, and it definitely made me rate this one quite a bit lower than I think I would have if I had waited a couple months in between her books. If you like Allie Hazelwood, you would probably like this book, and you might like that it's set in something different than the straight up sciencey STEM field. It didn't quite meet the expectations that I had, and again, I might have set myself up for failure there, so take my opinion with a grain of salt on this one. The next book I read was The Teacher by Freida McFadden. This was another audiobook. While this was my favorite Freida McFadden book I have read so far, I did forget about it immediately after I put it down. Completely forgot that I read this until I was looking at my Storygraph to make this video. It completely left my mind. It left basically no impact on me, which is quite unfortunate because, again, this was my favorite of her books, and I think I've read 3 or 4 at this point. The Teacher is about a young girl, a student, who gets caught up in some accusations of a teacher having an inappropriate relationship with her and the inappropriate relationship that she develops with another teacher. There's also a plot about cheating and affairs going on, a broken marriage. The connections that were made at the end of the book I thought was really interesting and really unexpected. Again, I think it's quite predictable. So far, everyone really loves her books, but I feel like all of them have been very forgettable for me. None of them have left a really strong, lasting impact. Again, I know I've read 3 or 4, but I couldn't tell you what any of them are at this point. I think Freida McFadden just isn't the author for me, and I'm probably going to move on to other authors at this point. The next one I read is Phantom Limb by Lucinda Berry. Now, this is another thriller. This one is very heavy. Check the content warnings before you read this book. It has basically anything and everything you can think of. Anything horrible you can think of is probably in this book, with the exception there's nothing about animals in this one. So this is about twins who were unfortunately heavily abused in their childhood and their relationship with one another, and one of the twins being pretty severely mentally ill and the consequences that come from her illness. I think it was okay. I think the ending was a little bit predictable on this one, which is unfortunate because the reason I read it is because everyone says that the ending is very unpredictable. I did enjoy it, and I did like her writing in this. I read one other Lucinda Berry book. I did One of Us, which is an audiobook read by JJ from Criminal Minds, my Criminal Minds girlies. Check that one out. And I really liked that book. I thought that it was heavy, but I thought the plot was very interesting. This one, it just really wasn't my favorite. I don't really have that much more to say. Again, check trigger warnings. But aside from trigger warnings, I think this might be better to go into blind because there are quite a few twists that happen throughout the book. The next book I read was The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. So this is a book about a young girl and her family who move up to Alaska, like rural Alaska. Her father is a Vietnam War veteran. He was a prisoner of war, and he suffers a lot from quite a few mental illnesses. He takes that out on his family as a result. So there's a lot of mentions of abuse and things like that. Again, you might want to check the trigger warnings on this one. Every Kristen Hanna book I have read has been about the relationship between women, which I do really love. This one is about a daughter and her mother dealing with their relationship with the father and husband of the book, as well as the townspeople. And I do really love the townspeople in this book. This was another one of my favorite reads this month. This is probably my favorite Kristen Hanna book so far. I thought it was really interesting, really sad. Yeah, if you're looking for a Kristen Hanna book, I definitely recommend this one. I did this one also as an audiobook, but I imagine that written it would also be beautiful. Next, we have the only nonfiction book I read this month, which is The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. If you don't know what this is about, Sherry Frankie is the daughter of Ruby Frankie, who was a family vlogger, if you know of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel. She was arrested a couple years ago for severely abusing and neglecting her youngest 2 children. Sherry was no longer living in the house at the time, but she recounts her life being a member of a family vlog channel, going through her mother's fall into occult psychosis, as well as her trying to kind of pick up the pieces of her life. I think if you are at all interested in stories about family vlogs, about religion, cults, things like that, I think you would be interested in this book. The audiobook is narrated by Sherry herself, so I definitely think I would recommend the audiobook over a written format. I read and reread the original Hunger Games trilogy. I reread the first two books. I read these when I was in middle school. I've seen the movies. I knew what I was getting into when I read this. However, I had never read the Mockingjay book or seen the Mockingjay movies. I have a reading vlog coming of this book soon. Keep an eye out for that. The trilogy, I definitely recommend this. Honestly, perfection in my eyes, with the exception of some parts of Catching Fire. But I really, really love this series. I'm so glad that I got back into reading it. I am so glad that I fell back into this world. If you have never read this series, definitely give it a chance. It is worth the hype. Last but not least, I read A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. If you don't know what this is about, this is a prequel to the original Hunger Games trilogy that follows President Snow. It's about how President Snow was originally a mentor in the 10th games, which is the first games that incorporated the mentor aspect, how the games developed, and the relationship that he has with his tribute. I think that if you are a big Hunger Games fan, you probably really like this book. I felt very mixed emotions on this one. So I have an in-depth reading vlog and all of that coming for this book soon, so wait for my full opinion with that video. Just a brief overview. I really, really loved getting more background knowledge and lore about the games, about previous games and how it all developed in the capital, 60 years before the original trilogy. I loved every bit of that. If she wrote a history book about this world, I would read it. I would eat that shit up. But I think that after the games ended in this book, I honestly didn't really care. I thought it was very predictable. I didn't really connect with any of the characters, so once the games were over, it really did nothing for me. Yeah, first half of this book, loved. 10 out of 10 recommend. Second half of this book, like a 3. Not my favorite, not my cup of tea. So I'll give you a full in-depth review of this book soon, along with my reading vlog. I really loved giving you a little glimpse into the books that I read this month. Please let me know if you read any of these books, what you thought of them. Please follow me on Storygraph, Instagram, TikTok, all of that. Please subscribe, like this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye!